Ang talk na ito ay inspired by this image. Inspired ito ng image na lumabas recently tungkol sa verdict sa Sandigan Bayan na si Imelda ay found guilty for 6 counts of graft and corruption. At lumabas ito at syempre ay naging contextual. So bigla ko na-reimagine yung idea na lumabas siya sa isang meme form na isang in itself a genre by which we are able to understand or it's able to condense yung a world of opinions and persuade us to this kind of opinion. No? At rarely na ang meme ay political din na ibig sabihin it's able to coalesce yung historical development at this time in our country's life and come up with this popular meme that translates to a call for justice, a call for immediate action na ngayon naman ay kung nabalitaan nyo, nangyari naman ay nakapag-bail siya sa halagang 150,000 pesos para sa 200 million na sangkot dito sa 6 grafts of corruption. So, way to go, Philippines. And then there you also have a kind of exchanges through memes. No? The night before, she also partied dahil birthday ng kanyang daughter na si Amy Marcos at nandun din yung iba pang mga of the same predicament who were found guilty or were arrested immediately after or during their presidencies katulad ni Erap or after their presidencies katulad ni Arroyo and placed under house arrest. Si Erap ay nakulong pa, found guilty talaga until presidential pardon siya ni Arroyo, etc. No? And then the magic wheelchair, of course, keeps coming back dahil lahat sila ay pretend to be sick immediately after na inaresto sila or under house arrest or tatakas papunta ng airport para and with all these braces na hawak na nag-hold ng katawan niya kay Arroyo, etc. Which is a very convenient excuse, no? It's not the first time the idea or the image of a wheelchair has dawned on the imagination because it become also a pattern. Kumbaga naging genre din ng wheelchair sa lahat ng prominent national officials that were entangled in various legal cases and verdicts, no? Of course, ang maganda dito ay kung maalala nyo, si Amy was very articulate in saying that these things never happened. Why don't we just move on dito sa past na to and lead our own lives na klase, including their campaign, no? Imelda, Bongbong, and Marcos, Imelda Marcos or Amy Marcos ay tatakbo for various national positions in the 2019 elections. No? So for the first time ay lumabas na merong hindi kayo innocent. You're guilty. Nangurakot kayo. At ito pa rin ang isang meme dito. Pati si Amy ngayon ay in a nervous predicament. Pati siya ay nag-feign na rin na meron din siyang risk sa heart at brain attack for kung ano man na naimbento ng kanyang niya at ng mga lawyers niya. No? So what this states is a kind of political revisionism, yung politics of revisionism, which is kind of still ongoing. No? The fact that Imelda was able to post bail and is still scot-free, you know, ibig sabihin nito, yung episode ng nation's history natin, which a lot of millennials like you have mistook for a kind of golden age in Philippine economic or growth development, no? Which is primarily the line of the Marcoses. There were no human rights violations. They did not plunder the wealth of this country. Wala silang mga Swiss bank accounts, etc. So this moves on to a kind of historical amnesia. Parang let's all forget it na yung nangyaring thousands imprisoned, salvaged, disappeared, hamleted, human rights violations and abuses, and yung kind of appeal to everyone, especially to the millennials who bought this game or this script, so to speak, na mag-move forward na lang tayo. Which means let's just skip this this controversy. When in doubt, in highly chaotic situations or in highly moral dilemma situations, mag-move on na lang tayo. Very millennial na you can break off with your boyfriend or girlfriend through a text or a PM, and then move on na from there. But it's also kind of historical rewriting of their revisionism, which means natuldukan ng Sandigan Bayan, unless yung Supreme Court will say that there was no graft and corruption. So it's still ongoing. And then it's very clear na magnanakaw talaga sila. So pag nakita nyo sila, huwag kayong ma-impress, huwag kayong magpa-selfie dahil magnanakaw itong mga personalities na to, as the verdict says ng Sandigan Bayan. So the outline of my presentation is the definition of the political and the cultural, or yung popular, as in popular culture, no? What this means, itong realm na to. And then yung contradictions and possibilities of both realms, at yung kind of merging nila sa katulad ng mga memes and other kinds of political popular expressions. And then the need to politicize the self, no? Kung bakit tayo may role ang popular culture na ito sa pag-depoliticize ng selves natin. And lastly, the need to integrate yung historical and social realms, so something that is outside the purview of the self, the I, the me, and move on to a kind of political and cultural acts of resistance. Okay, yung masyado magatakot sa mga terms na yan. So, pag sinabi natin politics, it really talks about allocating scarce resources to unlimited needs, which is mostly done by our congresses, no? Which means limited lang yung income natin, yung resources, so yung na-generate the income for the year. Therefore, kanino ito i-allocate? So it's a politics game, what we have in Congress. And that's really the cause for being ng Congress at Senate. It's to finalize, the first agenda of the day is really to finalize the national budget for the year, for the coming year. No? So, syempre, in the process, it involves a lot of politicking. Sino malakas, sino mga DDS, congressmen and women, sino yung mga may pressure points sa mga officials na na-elect, para sila ang makakakuha ng bulk of the wealth. No? So it's a kind of patronage politics. Whoever is in power is able to use their pork barrels to benefit themselves mostly, or reestablish the game that they will be re-elected again for the next 3 terms, no? Succeeding terms. But it's also the wellspring of corruption. So politics is really kind of synonymous to the sphere of corruption in this country. It's which means that it's a role the 1% and the 99% undertakes. So ito yung script naman natin sa politics na ito. The 1% harps on us na to vote for them, pero yung 1% lang naman nagbe-benefit sa lahat ng policies na i-implement nila. The trade law is not really intended to alleviate the 99%, but it's really conducive for the 1% who will get larger tax reliefs, income tax reliefs sa 1% na to. Similar to what has happened in the US and in other first world countries. No? Mas mayaman ka, mas konti ang tax mong babayaran kesa sa mas mahirap ka na nagsasuffer sa across the board taxes like the value-added tax. Whether you're rich or poor, you pay for this 12% tax na naka-integrate sa lahat ng services at lahat ng purchases na binibili natin. So, yun yung political game, yun yung nangyayari sa atin. So, nagkukan ito sa idea ng Philippine politics na for mostly, the kind of governance we have are mostly anti-poor or pro-rich governance, such as the Plan Tokhang, 27,000 killed, mostly underclass men who look the part na kusgusin, disposable bodies ng men na to na pwedeng patayin and no one complains for most part. Diba? Oplan Tambay, 150,000 were sent to jail simply because they do not have, their communities do not have public spaces that will allow them to pag-promenade, mamasyal, etc. Yung mga houses nila sa urban communities, urban poor communities, ay wala naman talagang spaces na kung saan makakatambay pa sila sa sarili nilang bahay. For that, may sufferance na reward sa kanila. And the train law, no? So the Philippine politics is really concerned over big profits, meaning how to generate more income. So we all know that mining is bad for this country kasi it's a kind of mining that just takes out all the minerals, not to process it here. So they take out all the minerals, yung mga tailing na lahat ng nakuha nila sa earth na to, sa mountains na to, na-expose at napopoison sa rivers and lakes, which will take years or centuries for these kinds of poison sa environment natin na mangyayari. At sinabi na yan ni Gina Lopez, where what happened? She was bumped off and replaced by a pro-mining ex-general na dito sa bansa na to. So it's really catering to businesses plus corruption. Kasi ang government naman ay mostly composed of top 400 surnames in these countries. No? So when you run for office, when you win for office, you need to invest a lot of things, di ba? Sabi nila, you need around 2 billion to have a fighting chance, 2 billion pesos to have a fighting chance to become president of this country. Saan ka kukuha ng 2 billion? So mostly donations, as we are finding out with this current administration, mostly donations, lump sum donations by political families or political clans in the past, di ba? So, at anong gagawin mo ngayon para, ba't ka nila bibigyan 2 billion? So, which means that patronage politics. So, pag nanalo ka, lahat ng policies mo or tweak mo para yung mga projects na PPP goes to your contributors. And that is what is happening now. Sino ang nagpapatayo ng NLEX at XLEX Skyway? Ramon Ang. Sino mga nakakakuha ng mga Cavitex? Ayalas, contributors din ng mga anyone who runs for public officials. And then, magkano para tumakbo sa local position, like a congressperson, a representative? It's around 100 million pesos. So kung wala kang 100 million pesos for campaign or even for payoffs, for vote buying, then you do not have a fighting chance to be elected in these local positions. This ties up also with the idea of neoliberalism, which talks about nasa age tayo dito na kahit na all hopes were on this president who got elected to be pro-poor, to be concerned with regions outside Metro Manila, being the first president to be elected from Mindanao. What has also transpired is that it's just one of those who will fulfill the game, not primarily for the local conditions, but for the idea of yung neoliberalism and its propensity to side with big businesses. So, noong 1990s, no 1980s, something happened worldwide. All the safety nets that are provided by first world countries, capitalist states, were taken out. So in the past, when you were unemployed, you get unemployment pay for at least 3 months, no, while in transition to look for your other job. So, what has happened sa age na ngayon ay subcontractualizations for life, which means that wala kang benefits. You pay off even for your uniform, but if you work in a fast food center, pag ma-aksidente ka, even work-related, then you pay off for yung medications and hospitalization needs mo. No? So it is talks about privatization. Everything was transferred to private companies, yung mga government services, which means the prison system in the US was transferred in the public hands. No? Kaya active na magpakulong at yung 3 strikes and you're out na klase, na, which means wala nang way of going out of prison. So it has the largest bumper crop of prisoners around the world. At sa atin din, the move towards yung Nueva Ecija, yung Bilibid to be transferred to Nueva Ecija, it's also going to be transferred through a PPP, which means that a private company would, and San Miguel again, Ang na naman, no? Ramon Ang na naman ang choice of developer for this kind of PPP na ipaprivatize yung prison system. And so on. And yung mga roadways natin are all PPPs. So, ibig sabihin ay, kung gusto mo ma-traffic, sa baba ka. Kung gusto mo mas mabilis or relatively mas efficient, ay sa taas ka, sa skyway ka, pero mas mahal. So, yun yung privatization. Everything, yung telecom industries natin, dati ay nasa hands lang ng isang kumpanya, ngayon ay na-devolve na klase. So, privatization, pangongolekta ng basura are all privatized sa mga companies na that just have contracts with the local government. Pagbabasa ng Meralco are all subcontractual labor. Yung mga meters na binabasa sa mga bahay natin, subcontractual labors. Ibig sabihin, that's the name of the game. Hospitals, pinapasarado yung mga public hospitals kasi dapat ay sa private hospitals na lang tayo. So privatization, yung mga social services, health, wellness, social welfare ay privatized. It also talks about marketization, which means that papasok itong mga kampanya na to kapag may ensured sila ng profits. Ibig sabihin, kahit bulok ang service ng MRT, kumikita ang Ayala dyan dahil guaranteed ang profit nila na nakalock in for 25 years no? Na klase. No? So wala silang pakialam kasi ay sila nagtayo niyan at guaranteed ang profits nila. Anything na ginawa nila, yung Skyway, yung ginagawang MRT sa Commonwealth, all these PPPs are guaranteed profit of at least, if I'm not mistaken, a fantastic rate of 20%. Na kahit na walang sumasakay dyan dahil mahal itong mga services na to, guaranteed ng government yun. So marketization. It also means that the humanities, kunyari, when we talk about education, no, ang market would be open for science and technology, engineering, etc. So yung mga humanities, dahil walang market, therefore, mag-service course kayo. Kayo mag-provide ng service course or close shop. Tanggalin nyo yung mga linguistics department nyo, anthropology department nyo, if you do not have X number of enrollees. Or ganito yung class size, therefore, kapag mas makonti ang class size, you fold up. If you remember also, there was a time na the IT course was nursing. So sa USC, the usual intake nila every year was just 4 freshie classes. Ngayon, nung nag-uso ang nursing as a kind of viable for export na klase ng profession, ay nag-jump sila sa 30 freshie classes sa time na popular ito. And of course, may sufferance. Ngayon, wala nang demand for Filipino nurses generally abroad. You get a lot of nurses na unemployed or doing call center work or doing other kinds of non-nursing related. So the market will determine yung klase ng services na meron tayo. That's why also, bagal yung internet sa Pilipinas. Kasi hindi tayo kung gusto natin na mas mabilis, magbayad tayo na mas mataas na rate. The market will not allow yung possibility na ma-high-end ang klase ng internet service natin. Kasi nga, ito lang ang binabayad natin na klase ng services. So, hindi kaya ng investment na gagawin yun. Bakit ang MRT, ganito lang ang presyo? Kasi kapag privatize ito totally, pinasok sa kamay ni MVP, Pangilinan, who wants it really to develop it, ang magiging basic rate ay 45 pesos from one stop to another. So hindi kaya ng market yun, di ba? Obviously, kaya ka nag-MRT kasi ay wala kang kotse, etc. So ibig sabihin nito ay markets ang nagdi-determine ng our way of life and even our options. At malaki ang papel ng market ito sa the way we Facebook or the way we mobilize our social media platforms. Pag hindi ito malalike, ba't mo pa ipopost? Di ba? So markets pa rin ang nagdi-determine. And then it talks about commercialization, which means that everything will be commercial rates. If it's transferred in the hands of the private sector, big businesses, commercial rates ito. So do not expect na may subsidy of any form dito sa age of neoliberalism. So what happened is that nagkaroon ng rise of the millennials. That's kind of our state of identity formation at this time, of your generation. No? May era na tinatawag na liberalism, which was the era of enlightenment. Ibig sabihin ito, mag-aral tayo, magtulungan tayo, realize our best potentials, the best we can be. And that is our contribution to humanity. Being the best writer, the best camera person, the best philosopher, etc. Magkakaroon siya ng additives sa the way humanity envisions itself, its growth, no? Substantial. Sa neoliberalism, nag-iba na. So, sa liberalism, it talks about rights and welfare. So, ginagalang na lahat ng support para ma-realize mo yung full potential mo, at least in this age na nag-spur ng industrial revolution at iba pang technological innovations, it was really focused on rights and welfare. So, lahat ng monarchies na wala, primarily sa panahon na to, nag-take over ang secular governments, no? Sa neoliberalism naman, it's access to markets. So it's individual access to markets, which means wala kayong pakialam sa kapwa nyo, kahit best friends kayo. Pag nag-compete kayo for a job opening, the other person does not matter na klase. Because it's having this access to, because market is power. Pag wala kang market, ibig sabihin nito, wala kang power to better yourself. So, ang reliance mo is through your own kind of maneuvers rather than a kind of shared issue of rights and welfare na klase. Sa liberalism naman, it shared freedoms, no? Parang hindi ka magiging masaya pag may nakita ka mahirap kasi ay dapat may economic freedoms ng lahat ng tao. At yun yung vision ng enlightenment. It's to move towards yung entire society moving to an age where everyone becomes middle class at least. At hindi itong parating nakastagnant na mas marami pa rin ang abject poor kaysa sa middle class in this country or in most developing countries, no? So sa neoliberalism, it's an individual agency. Kanya-kanyang diskarte. So ibig sabihin nito, lahat kayo pumasok sa Lasal because lahat kayo naniniwala sa either Lasallian education or the importance of tertiary education as a kind of stepping stone, a building block towards realizing your dreams, no? Pero individual agency, which means that kanya-kanya kayong diskarte to maintain your positions here in Lasal. So if you're kind of not so well off, then you would have bigger problems. So, lahat tayo, sinabi sa atin ng society ng neoliberal state, lahat tayo dapat may cellphones. So, kanya-kanya tayong diskarte na nagkaroon ng cellphones, kanya-kanya din tayong diskarte ng klase ng load dito sa cellphones na to. So, may postpaid, may prepaid, may walang load na klase. So, sa liberalism naman, it was about enlightenment, yung philosophizing, realizing your human value because you're able to contemplate your peace, no? Sa naman, sa neoliberalism, it's about entitlement, which means that entitled ka. Hindi ako nagbasa pero entitled ako sa opinion ko. Bobo ang opinion ko. So, that is a marketplace of Facebook, yung post nyo. It's all a system of equivalence. Your post is as important as post ni Trump, as post ni Duterte, as post ni Moca, as post ni kung sino-sino. Dahil one post lang naman lahat ang mga tao na to. But it competes for a market. Ang kwan lang ay mas malaki ang market ng ibang mas sikat sa iyo, yung ibang mas controversial sa iyo, yung ibang mas nagse-speculate na more kind of re-engineering of one's post para mas makapaghamig siya ng mas maraming likes at reposts at comments, etc. Which goes also for images like selfies and hindi mo pa-post ito na pangit ka. Pa-post mo ito na at least maganda ka. Sa liberalism naman, it talks about sociality and collectivity because one person cannot do it alone. It has to be a shared kind of endeavor, no? So yung itong age ng neoliberalism, it goes around until 1900, yung early 1900s, kung saan ay na-devastate na wala itong project ng neoliberalism dahil may two world wars ka na naganap at massive destructions at systematic killings of certain kinds of races, kahit 6 million Jews were gassed by Hitler, etc. So na-realize na civilizations do not work in a kind of a utopia. Civilizations have also a propensity to destroy each other sa ganito. So nawala yung age na yun. It has moved on to this neoliberalism phase. So sa neoliberalism naman, so it talks about not of kind of real, actual communities, barkadas, etc. It talks about virtual communities and same groupings. Ibig sabihin, pag yung friendship level nyo, I suppose, as a kind of speculation, ay same naman kayo. Hindi naman kayo mag-accept ng an add-on sa barkada nyo or sa grouping nyo kung hindi naman kayo parehong mag-isip. Pareho kayo ng places na gusto mong puntahan for gimmicks, pareho kayo ng idea of fashion, etc. So same, which means lahat tayo na contain sa ating klase ng comfort zones. And we do not imagine a kind of priority world out there na outside our comfort zones. And lastly, liberalism talks about his social and historical politics. Ibig sabihin nito, yung nangyayari sa society at yung nangyayari sa history natin in the past are things that are part of the humanities, the classics, no? Hindi ka pwede mag-move on bilang art student na hindi pinag-aaralan yung the classics. Which means it becomes a wellspring or a kind of spring wherein the best practices of the past civilizations or the past kinds of societies are established in this imagined utopia of hopes and practices. No? Sa kasalukuyan naman, it talks about neoliberalism. So lahat na lang ng pwede nyo i-harp on as a kind of identities ay hina-harp on dito. I'm a lesbian, Muslim, PWD, lahat ng klase ng disadvantageous positionalities but can be rendered a kind of privileged position are also foregrounded na ito yung it thing. So ngayon nasa age na tayo, natapos na tayo sa LGBTQ, pumapasok na tayo sa T, sa trans woman at trans men. As a kind of, parang ngayon lang tayo nagre-recognize na iba pala silang category to begin with. Yung ganong klase identities or the underclass Chinese. We all thought na yung mga basta Chinese, mayayaman, kaya kinikidnap. Nung pala ay marami din Chinese na underclass, working class in this country na ina-imagine natin. Or yung hyphenated identities, Korean, Filipinos, na klase kasi ang dami na nagtrabaho sa Korea or sa Japan. Nagkakaroon na tayo ng mga classmates na ang pangalan ay may Japanese surname at hindi makapag Nihongo. Kasi ay ibang klase ng reality na ng pinanggalingan nila when their fathers did not recognize them. Kaya sila nasa Pilipinas. So and so forth. Mga ganyang klaseng hyphenated realities. When we talk about folk, we talk about the idea yung dati lowbrow, meaning popular comes from the word folk, Volk, yung German term, and it talks about yung people, yung pedestrian, yung underclass kind of culture, yung mga geologs, in other words, na ayaw natin. But with certain kinds of markets being open, ay itong mga geologs na to, or yung underclass, ay naging hip and fashionable. So therefore, anything that can be generated for profits becomes hip and fashionable. Dati, ang lugaw ay street food lang. Or mga isaw ay street food lang. Ngayon ay dahil it's able to generate profit, then you get isaw even in some fine dining restaurants in this country or etc. No? So popular talks about a middle class culture. Middle class kasi yung mataas, yung high end, yung 1%, ito yung pwede silang bumaba at may dignidad pa rin sila. At yung 99% naman, yung middle class na yung abject poor, ito naman yung pwede silang ma-imagine na realizable. Hindi sila pwede mag-realize ng private jets at vacations in exclusive islands. No? Mag-dream sila ng vacations sa yung Pilipino o kung saan man na-imagine ng kwan. So it's a middle class culture, yung piece of fares that provide them access to travels, etc. So for the poor, ito yung symptom nito ay yung sachet economics na kahit hindi ka makabili ng mga produkto ay bibigyan ka ng option to explore itong beautiful silky hair, getting your man by the end of the commercial dahil first world ang bathtub mo kung saan nag-shampoo ka, etc. na klase. So pinapatikim, and pag pupunta kayo sa 7-Eleven or sa even sa kung samang sari-sari store, lahat na lang nakatingi. So gel, lubricants, ano pa ba, lahat ng pwede, lotions, skin whiteners, lahat may mabibili kang tingi-tingi. Kasi nga, ay kung wala kang economic, at kahit pasa load, di ba, yung pinakamurang load, ay tingi-tingi pa rin. Ibig sabihin nito, it will really cater because it is benchmarking this certain kinds of commodities as part of a middle-class culture. The popular is also a way to soft-sell global youth cultures and gentrification. No? Ibig sabihin, pag nanonood tayo ng Marvel DC or James Bond movie, then we find out the latest watch, high-end watch ng panlalaki. Pag James Bond ito, the latest car na kayang tumalon sa parking lot sa 4th floor at mag-landing na safely sa ground floor at mag-succeed sa chase pa rin. Or yung mga ganong klase. So, pag nanood kayo ng TVs, kung ano man pinapanood yung Netflix series nyo, it's really a way of telling us what kinds of hairstyle, eyeglasses, etc. And it all works within a kind of global culture na it becomes a cookie-cutter kind of culture. So itong popular culture na to becomes a way of individual accessing and making do. It is out there, but kanya-kanya tayong paggagapay dito. Much in the same way, may pressure point din eh. Kung lahat ng kaklase nyo napanood na itong popular film na to, how does it feel na kayo na lang hindi nakakapanood nito? So it marks an inclusive and exclusive imagined sphere. Ma-OOP kayo out of place dahil dito kasi hindi nyo na-access ito in the right manner. So a lot of people in the experience of popular culture really makes do. Kung anong uso, kung hindi kayo maka-afford ng Mac Air, then ano yung pwede nyong i-afford na parang Mac Air looking. And if you think about it, lahat ng lahat ng notebooks ngayon na lumalabas ay nagmo-move talaga towards the design ng Mac na klase. So, gone are the days na mabibigat sila, lahat sila nagmo-move na pwede mo silang liparin ng hangin. So, it's flow from the global centers to the peripheries. Walang popular culture na nag-flow back. It is always from the top, Hollywood films, blockbusters going down. Walang Filipino film that goes up and becomes part of a filmic global culture. No? So it also is a marker of life cycles. No? So how were you acculturated to McDonald's, to Disneyland, no? Na characters, no? So nung bata kayo, well, ito yung rewards nyo na klase as a kind of for good behavior, for getting good grades, etc. And when you grow old, when you get married, have kids, you will also do this to your kids, no? Kahit alam nyo unhealthy food ang French fries at ang Sunday na yan, etc. Gagawin nyo pa rin. So life cycle. So nasusustain ng popular culture yung life nila. At kahit lolo kayo, ay pwede pa rin kayo maging market. So maraming commercials ng fast food na parating kasi may addition, may saving sa mga lolo daw na pwede nilang i-dote sa mga kanilang mga apos na klase. So bahagi siya ng life cycle na re-reproduce siya. So hindi natin ma-imagine na ideological reading sa Disneyland ay pro-capitalist ito. Or anti-laborer ito. Na yung mga mascot in the middle of summer ay mga tao ng actual na nasa loob ng mascot na ito na pinagpapawisan sa costumes nila bilang Mickey Mouse, etc. Hindi niyo i-imagine yun na may tao yun. And I will explain it a bit. So we buy into. Idea nito ay kahit hindi nyo mapa-afford, like young people, ay ipapark ito sa utak nyo na ito yung benchmark of this kinds of capitalist culture. Gusto niya, kung alam nyo, for example, hindi naman nag-advertise ang Mac at Apple sa Pilipinas, di ba? So bakit alam nyo kung ano yung latest iPhone model, the latest Mac model, di ba? So ibig sabihin nito ay we buy into this literally and figuratively kahit wala pa tayong economic power. So and then it becomes a part of or integral sa ideological formation na tinatawag, which means it soft sells values and practices of the 1%. Hindi mo naman talaga kailangan ng iPhone. Hindi mo naman talaga kailangan ng Mac Air. Pero it soft sells the idea na ito talaga yung benchmark. Kasi sa lahat ng Hollywood films, wala nang gumagamit ng Acer na models, di ba? At least sa Korean films, makikita mo ay Samsung sila lahat doon. May nationalism itong mga brands na ito. So it's very pro-state. Ibig sabihin nito, it will not rock the boat. It's pro-business, pro-good governance na klase. Yung mga pelikula na mga inapis sila, mag-fight out sila sa through a long battle sa court case, ay for most part, nagtatagumpay. Di ba? Yung mga sexually abused sa Boston na mga pare, pagtapos tinake on yung case, ay pinifeature itong saga na to, because the system works. The judicial system in the US, at least in Boston, worked for that kind of case. No? Pero pag nakita nyo yung sa last part ng film, mas marami pa palang victims ang hindi nagkaroon ng relief sa sexual abuse nila sa church, sa Boston film na ito. And then it means that proactive individual citizenship claim, kanya-kanya tayo. Kung hindi kayo lumaban, kasalanan nyo yun. Kaya hindi kayo nagkaroon ng justice sa mga sa mga kapihan sa atin. So it's very anti-99% itong mga formation ng ideology na to. So the more pleasurable, ibig sabihin, pag nanood kayo ng film at nakalimutan nyo yung social realities nyo, yung mga kailangan nyo dapat gawin, ibig sabihin, more ideologically pointed itong project na to. Nakalimutan mo yung problema mo eh. So ibig sabihin, it's the power, no? It's the power of popular culture na you're able to move on to that kind of worlding na ginagawa ng popular culture products na ito. So it's a very docile gentrification. Tahimik ka lang dyan, pero nakikita mo na kung ano mga dapat mong makuha, kainin, Instagrammable places na puntahan para magpa-shoot, etc. So it talks about pleasurable desires too, no? Ibig sabihin nito ay Pleasure is individually internalized. Parang pag nanonood kayo ng pelikula, pare-pareho tayo ng pinapanood ng pelikula, pero individually internalized natin to. Pag tumawa tayong sabay-sabay sa sinehan, iba-iba yung source natin ng tawa. Hindi lang tayo tumatawa dito dahil sa punchline. Halimbawa, when I fall in love dahil it was the proper kind of sentiment na matunghayan natin. But because it was also induced in us. Ibig sabihin, it's able to individually hook us into this kind of filmic representation, world of the film na klase. Now, ang world of the film na yun ay world of the 1% for most part. So, good pleasure only. Parang hindi naman kayo pupunta sa mga gimmickan places nyo na may KJ. So, modality nyo ay talagang feel good. No? You deserve it. You're entitled to this break. But it also hides two things, yung tinatawag na commodity fetishism. One is a magical transformation of commodities. Halimbawa, pag pumasok kayo sa mga bagay-bagay na it becomes devoid of human labor na klase. So, ano ba yung naisip ko kaninang example dito? Magical transformation of commodities. Ibig sabihin nito, pag nakuha nyo yung diploma nyo down the line, pag nag-graduate kayo sa Lasal, then the diploma is a kind of commodity fetishism. It condenses your entire kind of experience here, but always in a kind of magical transformation. Lasal is a brand that sells, and you're also a brand that will sell. Gets you? Parang hindi, so it does not talk about your sufferance, yung number 2. Which means na yung mga days na nagpuyat kayo, nagkasakit kayo, naharas kayo dito, or hindi ka makabayad ng tuition, wala yun sa mga commodities. What we see in commodities are magical transformations itself. No? So pag pumunta tayo sa PPP na mga products, Skyway sa Lianbawa, hindi mo ma-realize na ginawa pala ito ng tao. O yung mga condos na tinitira natin, may laborers na nagawa nito because they become magical. The moment they're transferred to you or sold as commodities, you bought them, they become devoid of any labor and therefore devoid of any sufferance. Walang naghirap dito. Parang pag bumili kayo ng cellphone nyo, hindi nyo naman iisipin na pinagdusaan nyo itong cellphone na to, nagtipid kayo, hinaras nyo yung magulang nyo, nabilang kayo ng cellphone na to. It's always a positivization of the experience. No? Parang pag nag-post kayo sa Facebook nyo, walang negative, walang mag-enjoy ng negative post. Alangan naman i-like na namatay yung tatay nyo. So kailangan i-positivize yun, i-re-engineer yung post na yun para nga magkaroon siya ng positive imagination. So what happens to us, to the individuals, no? To the millennials? Nagkakaroon ng cookie-cutter self and dreams. You think you're unique, but you're not. Your dreams are not your own, but there's someone else that you bought into. No? Which means that yung real fantasy in the formation of the self, which means that yung idea ba na you form yourself, half of the formation is really not inexistent yet. It's in the realm of fantasy that you would park in your minds. You've come to believe as integral to your own formation, idea of true love, idea of an ideal Valentine's date, idea of a close-knit family for Christmas, etc. So we all buy into this kasi yun yung sinasabi ng lahat ng jingles ng kasama, kapamilya, kapuso channels na family as one during Christmas, etc. At may gift-giving. So, pati naman the way we all produce selfies or groupie or Instagrammable, Facebookable pictures or posts are all within a cookie-cutter kind of mold. Wala naman dyan nagpo-post na itim lang, yung walang picture, di ba? Lahat kayo nagpo-post ng something na, kasi kaya nga selfie, di ba? Pero ibig sabihin, lahat nito ay, the minute details na sa mga selfies nyo or mga pinopost nyo sa Facebook na kung alisan ay mas maraming magla-like nito rather than mas maraming walang papansin. In other words, nagko-compete nga tayo sa markets of likes and reposts. So, sa popular culture, we become complicit, no? The fact that we patronize Hollywood films, and for most part, we buy into certain kinds of dreams and aspirations. So, bahagi tayo, complicit tayo sa project na yon. And then, ang nangyari pa ay we're free labor to popular culture. Dati, nagbabayad tayo para sa sine, di ba? Para takutin ang sarili natin if it's a horror film, to fall in love if it's a romantic film, etc. To laugh if it's a rom-com na klase. Nagbabayad tayo to be able to experience that 1.5 hour of intense kind of realities, fantasy realities. But now it's free labor to the social media. Mas active kayo sa social media, mas maraming data na pwedeng i-mine sa inyong data, sa inyong walls at profiles. No? So ibig sabihin, free labor yon. Yumayaman si Zuckerberg at nagiging 100 million ng kanyang wealth dahil sa klase ng free laborers na in-establish natin na ilan ba tayo? 2 billion, 1 billion ba ang Facebook users around the world? So, free labor yon. So, ang nangyayari sa atin, akala natin ay marangal ang mga Facebook, pero it's really being content providers. It's not your world. It's not your images anymore. Delete nyo yung images na yan. Nandun pa rin siya sa mega computer sa Virginia. Na kung saan ay minamine pa rin for continuous information. At it's also yung propensity na pati ang facial features mo, kaya niyang i-recommend kung ikaw nga ba to. To tag yourself or to accept the tagging na to, etc. So, or even sa klase ng community of friends mo ay kaya niya nang i-suggest ang tag kung sino itong na to. So it's getting to perfect its system na kung saan ay everything is discernible or more so algorithmable, which means that it can be, kapag namamine siya for mega data, statistics, and it becomes more useful to prospective buyers of this kinds of information. Huge companies, advertising, opinion makers, etc. So, what is the place therefore of yung formation na to? Then we have to take a critical stance. We do not buy into it, or we buy into it, but with a very skeptical attitude. So we need to reclaim itong self through reclaiming politics. What has transpired for most part ay isang klase ng self na self lang talaga. For most part. And even though you have a small cohort na which affects you or sustains you, it's still yourself that becomes the privileged entity in this formation. You are the center of the world, the center of the world. Pero ngayon, kailangan bumalik tayo sa political na may self at others. The world does not revolve around you. Hindi lang ito narcissism as measured or as platformed for us by Facebook and other social media, but it has to incorporate real politics. No? How have you reacted to any of Duterte's very misogynist slurs sa inyong Facebook accounts? May nag-react ba dito? Sa inyong mga Facebook accounts? Have you taken this on? So, ibig sabihin, it's a kind of sheltered existence. Ang concerns nyo lang ay yung concerns nyo. Na parang walang effect yung isang presidente na nambubuli na 27,000 ang pinapatay. Mas marami pa namatay sa time niya kesa sa extrajudicial killing sa time niya kesa sa Marcoses. In 2 years' time pa lang yon. So, ibig sabihin, you have to expand your world. It cannot just be itong comfort zone. So, and how do we do this? It needs to be very effective, yung klase ng pagpasok natin sa others na to. For example, anything that we commit to ourselves, we form linkages through a kind of emotional link sa tao na to. We have to be affected by the issues, no? Ibig sabihin, how do you think should you be affected by strong issues such as the EJ case o itong mga sexist slurs ng presidente natin? Ano bang kailangan pang gawin sa inyo para maapektuhan kayo nito? So, kasi kung wala kayo makikreact emotionally, then you will not form any kind of link, any kind of social relations with this kind of mega or institutional realities at this time. So, you need to examine yourselves. Bakit hindi kayo naapektuhan ng ganitong klaseng serious slurs na to? Na klase. So, we need to also believe in a kind of alternative possibilities, no? It cannot just be this world. It has to be other kinds of existence, no? And we also have to deny yung reality na this is our world, but there has to be realities or larger realities in which our world revolves around in. So, have you seen The Matrix? Nasikita niyo ba yung Matrix? So, meron kang Matrix dito na pleasant world, itong world natin, parang sa Lasal, no? Pagkatapos niyan, ay meron kang Matrix na kung saan gine-generate lang talaga, ginagawang batteries lang ang humans sa world na to. In order to establish this fake fantasy world where everything works and everything's fine na klase, no? So, ang ginagawa dito, in-offer yung head ng revolutionaries dito na slick revolutionaries dahil naka-trench coat sila ay in-offer si Neo, yung character ni Keanu Reeves ng blue pill or at red pill. Yung blue pill ay makakalimutan niya nag-usap sila at alam niya yung kung how yung world of Matrix and the real world, yung fantasy world. Yung red pill naman ay he would pursue the social cause. Ibig sabihin, he will be moved outside yung reality nito na kung saan ay wala na siya sa matrix. Nandun na siya sa behind the matrix, so makikipag-giyera na siya. In other words, kailangan may option tayo. It cannot just be yung regular na intake natin. Yung regular na things that provide a kind of pat on our backs na klase ng post or klase ng social relationing natin through social media. It has to be more hard felt realities, no? So, kailangan din nyo examine din kung bakit wala kayong choice to begin with. Bakit ayaw nyo mag-move on in examining larger kinds of choices that are out there. So, what is actual cookie-cutter choice and then alternative choices? So, yung bang pinili nyo, siyempre, hindi nyo maaminin na cookie-cutter yan. Galing lang yan sa nakita nyo or napanood nyo, and you've taken it on as a kind of emotive investment into this kinds of fantasy or pegs na sinabi sa atin. So how do we move on? Ano pa yung alternative na klase ng mundo? And we're not talking about another kind of cookie cutter mold or another kind of red pill. We can imagine a kind of liminal space na kung saan ay we can coexist. A fantasy, yung sinasabi ng the reality and the illusion. You need to examine those kinds of realities in the illusion na kung saan man tinitake on yung sarili nyo. So, we need to examine yung idea ng political at cultural. Ang political, ibig sabihin, something that you work for a larger cause outside yourself. So, it's not about politicking, but it's also about transforming politics itself. Which means that political projects ito, hindi ba? Yung earliest feminist motto ay the personal is political and the political is personal. Which means that the personal has to be remolded for larger kinds of political causes. It cannot just be acceptance of the fiction of a battered wife, an abused female na klase, but it has to be yung victim na female, but it has to be kind of another kind of political transformation needed. Kung nakikita mo na inaapi ka, bakit hindi ka lumalaban in a kind of political transformation of the personal and vice versa. So the political also can be imagined as something cultural. Yung culture parang any lang naman yan. Anything is culture, di ba? But when we talk about a cultural, then we need to talk about transforming cultural projects itself. Ibig sabihin, culture itself. Ibig sabihin, sa Facebook, we need to take on itong hard issues na to. It cannot just be issues that are pretty convenient for us or pretty much that defines our identities. We have to take on yung klase ng mundo na nandun. Kailangan pag-aralan natin kung paano natin sasagutin ito and how this becomes integral in our kinds of identities, di ba? So kung ang wall nyo puro mimi, tapos at mga repost lang na gusto nyo basahin or park sa wall nyo for archival purposes, then why don't we post something na more significant? If you believe in certain kinds of public opinion na hindi nyo ma-articulate at this time, then why don't we also put this in our walls? No? Then it defines another kind of dimension for us in this fiction that we call Facebook or Instagram or Twitter na klase. So we need to bring in the historical. Ibig sabihin, magbasa-basa lang tayo ng labas ng sarili natin networks at nasa YouTube at maging ipasok natin yung larger kinds of historical and social forces. So we need to develop a level of skepticism, attitude of skepticism. We need to be skeptics of our own kinds of chosen realities. No? Ibig sabihin ito ay, masaya na ba kayo sa status nyo? O sa buhay nyo? So you need to be skeptical. We need all to be skeptical. No? Hindi pwedeng overly optimistic or overly pessimistic. It needs to be yung liminal nga. At yung skepticism will provide this kind of third space, yung liminal space na kung saan ay na-interrogate nyo yung possibilities that are out there. And you also question yung positionality nyo in relation to larger kinds of social realities. So in alternative cultures, unless we imagine an alternative in our lives, then wala naman talagang alternative. Your lives are pretty much sorted out. Which means that yan ang buhay nyo sa guni-guni nyo or sa magiging talaga sa buhay nyo. So parang hindi naman happy yun, di ba? At hindi naman happy na yung mga markers lang na pumunta kayo sa mga Instagrammable places na gusto nyong puntahan, makapag-travel worldwide kayo, etc. And that's the meaning of life. That is not the meaning of life. Kailangan malam may idea na you are transformed by each travel substantially as a person. Hindi yung dahil mas marami kayo nito ay mas nagiging worthier individual kayo. So how do we do this? We admit the limitations of the self. It is not a perfect self. Parang it's also very Christian ba? Hindi ka naman perfecto to begin with. Hindi ka naman ganun kagandahan. Hindi ka naman ganun kasama din na klase. So we have to admit na limitado itong self natin. We also need to imagine that another world is out there. So may heaven naman, di ba? Bible nga may heaven, yung Christian nga, Catholicism may heaven. When we need to imagine na merong iba pang mundo na at this time, it cannot just be this misogynist bastard dictating the kinds of life we will live. So kailangan magalit tayo doon. Pag hindi tayo nagagalit, pwedeng gawin ito kahit ano na lang gusto niya. Until eventually hits on us na tayo ma-victimize dito at malagyan kayo ng cardboard sign dyan na kung ano man. So how do we do this? Well, we need to arouse others. You can, totoo naman, di ba? Ang daming organizations dito, ang daming issues dito sa Lasal na out there. But we need to be able to arouse also other people. We need to organize and mobilize. And you cannot organize through Facebook. Well, makaka-organize ko ng meetings, etc. But for causes, for alternative possibilities, it has to be a kind of actual organization of people's lives. And then we should have the brevity or the courage na makibaka, wag matakot. Ibig sabihin, sinasayang niyo yung youth niyo, di ba? Sabi nga nung isang poet, youth is wasted on the young. This is a point to being very idealistic, very radical, very counter-cultural, counter-authority. Anong ginagawa niyo? Nothing. So, sayang naman yung pagiging youth. And we will sell out eventually, right? In various ways sa system na to. But pag youth kayo, it is really the time to imagine, to reclaim another world for yourself and for your children. It cannot be just this kind of world, no? So we need to come up with alternative worlding kinds of situations and alternative pleasures. Facebook is not pleasurable. It is labor, intellectual labor for a lot of us, no? Tagal mag-load ng mga pictures, etc. So, tagal-tagal lang. So, labor sa atin yun. At free labor dahil tayo nagbayad. Hindi naman si Zuckerberg ang nagbayad ng ng data natin sa smartphones natin. So, yun yung kailangan natin maintindihan. So, for this lecture, ay na-discuss natin yung FB tweet, therefore I am. So, kailangan i-debunk natin ito. You are not. Facebook is not the world. Hindi porke hindi nangyari sa Facebook ay hindi na nangyari sa mundo. Next is a popular soft sell of the 1% political project for the 99%. And we have to believe in this. Otherwise, ay masaya lang lahat ng bagay, masaya lahat ng Hollywood films. There's a larger world of issues out there and need to reclaim the self and the collective through the political and cultural actions. So with that, thank you for listening.